Hello, BookTube. I have some more books I want to show you, kind of a Monday reads, although I never really need much of an excuse to show you books. You're going to see these are all new, so you're going to see them in your bookstores and maybe wonder about them, so you'll have seen them here. You'll have a little more information. I've got 6 books I want to show you, and 3 are books that I've already read, and then we'll finish up with 3 that I have not read but are right on the docket. And the first one is a Penguin Classic, a new Penguin Classic that comes out in, I think, early July. Those of you who are new to the channel, YouTube is telling me that the channel just hit 6,100 subscribers. That's fantastic. This comes out in the second week of July. And those of you who are new to the channel, I do regularly get Penguin Classics, and I love them of all things. If you've just found my channel just recently, seen me struggling with the lighting here in the front room, then you might not be familiar with, unless you look back at my enormous back catalog of videos, you might not be familiar with the backdrop of the little book room. The whole south wall of the little book room is Penguin Classics, just from floor to ceiling. And that's where these will end up, this one too, because I really liked it. I really, really liked it. This was a case, it's translated literature. I often complain that in translated literature I often feel like the translator's getting in the way. That, I even when I don't understand the original language, as in this case, I keep finding myself thinking, okay, could you be quiet? Even though I wouldn't read the work at all without that translator. Those are bad translators, and this is a very good translator, because I didn't feel that way at all. Instead, the translation feels like a great work in English, which is what a good translation should feel like. Apparently, this is a beloved classic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos, tributes, retellings, stage adaptations of this. It is a Vietnamese epic. It's called The Song of Kieu. It's by Nguyen Du. This is the Penguin version. The very first time that this has ever been in the Penguin Classic. Just a lovely Penguin Classic paperback. Let's see here. Ever since it exploded into Vietnam's cultural life 2 centuries ago, The Song of Kieu has been one of the most beloved and defining central myths. It recounts the tragic fate of a beautiful singer and the poet Kieu, who agrees to marry to save her family from debt, but is tricked into working in a brothel. Over the course of a swift-moving story involving kidnap, war, jealousy, wives, rebel heroes, she will become a queen, wife, nun, slave, victim, and avenger, surviving through the strengths of her words and her wits alone. And this is a verse translation by Timothy Allen that I thought was terrific. In fact, not just the translation. This is just a totally successful Penguin Classic edition. There's a huge introduction, operating under the assumption that even well-read readers might not know this work, well-read Western readers. There's a huge introduction. There are maps. There are pronunciation guides. There's a verse translation. And all of it is just wonderfully done. This is exactly what Penguin Classics have been so traditionally great at. Take a classic from another literature and create a totally self-contained, informative, and enjoyable English version, complete with scholarly apparatus, and then present it to the public for an affordable price. This is $15. So I got it in the mail, and even though it's a couple of weeks away, I read it right away anyway, because I love how Penguin feeds omnivorous literary curiosity. I love how they do that. It's not just Dickens over and over again. They have, in the last 20 years, they have hugely expanded their list so that you get things like this that I didn't know anything about, had never read in any format, and now I feel like a window to another world has been opened up. That was just wonderful. Then this next book is one that I mentioned already. I didn't show it to you, but I mentioned it in my July TBR BY. I got the finished copy, and I read it again. I read it for the second time. It's very, very good. It's very effective. It's Adrian McKinty's The Chain. I told you about it last time. Let me read you about it now. The morning starts like any other. Rachel Klein drops her daughter Kylie at the bus stop and heads into her day. But then a cell phone call from an unknown number changes everything. On the line is a woman informing Rachel that she has Kylie bound and gagged in her backseat, and the only way Rachel will ever see her again is if she pays a ransom and kidnaps another child. The caller is a mother herself, whose son has also been abducted, and if Rachel doesn't do exactly as she's told, the boy will die, and so will Kylie. Rachel is now part of The Chain, a terrifying scheme that turns parents from victims into criminals and is making someone else very rich in the process. Rachel is an ordinary woman, but over the coming days she will be pushed beyond ordinary limits. She will have to make impossible moral choices and do terrible things. The chain is ruthless, terrifying, and completely anonymous. The rules are simple. Find the money, find your victim, and then commit a horrible act you'd have thought yourself incapable of just 24 hours ago. What the masterminds behind the chain know is that parents will do anything for their children. But what they don't know is that they may have finally met their match. Rachel is smart, determined, and a survivor. But can she be the only one to break the chain? And like I mentioned the other day when I mentioned this in my TBR-BY, I think this might be the publisher's attempt to break Adrian McKinty out into an enormous larger audience, the enormous larger audience that he very much deserves. I should stress that. The novel, the premise that we just read, is incredibly manipulative and incredibly contrived, but the novel works really well. And it works really well by Adrian McKinty writing to his strengths, as he always has. I loved this author the very first time that I read him in Dead I Well May Be, and I've loved lots of his books since then. So I can recommend this. You can tell from that summary, it's for diehard thriller fans because it's dark territory. And I don't know, I can't resist the urge to be a little bit of a book critic that I don't think the character of Rachel is quite the success that she is clearly intended to be celebrated as. But that's okay. She's still a success. The novel is still a success. And then the last one is YA. The last of the three that I've already read is YA. And it's a debut, and yet it knocked my socks off. I just thought it was terrific. It's Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. And I will read you a little bit about it because it is terrific. 18-year-old Gu Myung this is Korean. This is based on Korean mythology, Korean folklore. Has a secret. She's a gumiho, a nine-tailed fox who survives by consuming the energy of men. But she's also half human and has a soft spot for people, so she won't kill indiscriminately. With the help of a shaman, Myung only takes the lives of men who've committed terrible crimes. Devouring their life force is a morbid kind of justice, or so she tells herself. But killing men no one would ever miss in bustling modern-day Seoul also helps Myung keep a low profile. She and her mother protect themselves by hiding in plain sight. That is, until Myung crosses paths with a handsome boy her age as he's being attacked by a goblin in the woods. She breaks her mother's cardinal rule, revealing herself and her nine tails to save Jihoon from certain death. In the process, she loses her fox bead, which is her soul, which is her Gumiko's soul. Without it, she will die. When Myung and Jihoon next meet, there's no doubt they are drawn to each other, but their tenuous romance could be over before it ever begins, as Myung's efforts to restore her fox bead by the next full moon ensnares them in a generations-old feud, forcing Myung to choose between her immortal life and Jihoon's. This is terrific. It's absolutely terrific. It's a debut. I don't know if it'll be part of a series, but I loved it. Just loved it. I dipped my toe in a little because I think this is a June release, but this is a June release. This is the end of June, so this is still bright and new. I dipped my toe in a little because at the time, a couple of days ago, I really wasn't in the mood for YA, and I was caught up right away. The main character is a supernatural creature, but she is also perfectly human and wonderfully drawn. There's a lot of fun. You wouldn't expect it from that plot description, but there's a lot of fun. This is engagingly written. The main character's supernatural abilities are bounded. They're not just whatever they, sometimes I'm sure you've read YA where something like this happens and the author uses as a get-out-of-jail-free card to cover anything. Nope, this is all extremely well world-built. Probably because it owes a lot to pre-existing folklore. I mean, if you're trying to do that folklore justice, then you'll stick to its boundaries. But the relationship between the two main characters was my favorite part of the book because they gradually, there's an attraction. They're attracted to each other immediately, but they don't like or love each other right away at all. And the process of self-discovery is not just a question of the young man learning about the supernatural. They're two people learning about each other. That actually would have worked. I think this author could have pulled it off without any of the fantasy elements. That's how good I thought she was at handling her material. So I recommend it. That is the last of the three of these 6 books that I have read. Now we'll do the 3 that I haven't read yet. They're immediately on the docket. The first one is a November book, but I'm too curious about it to wait, I think, and it's a slight thing. It'll only take me an hour. And this is Eugene Peterson. It's a posthumous collection of his sermons called A Month of Sundays. And the subtitle is 31 Days of Wrestling with Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And the author was the translator of the Message Bible that is really popular with some Bible groups and youth groups. And this is a never-before published collection of 31 ruminations drawn from the Gospels. A Month of Sundays is exactly what the title says, a month of daily insights into the Gospels culled from the writings and sermons of Eugene Peterson, one of the most renowned pastors and contemporary theologians, theological teachers of our time. These hand-picked readings provide a focused journey through the 4 Gospels. In his distinctive style of earthy spirituality, the pastor-poet reframes the stories of Jesus in ways that disrupt our assumptions, refuel our passions, and restore our spirit. And the author died in 2018. So, and I knew nothing about him. So, and I still don't. I'm going to learn about him mainly the right way first by reading his book, and then I will go online and do all the research so that when November comes, I can write about the thing. Then we have a big work of history. I have only dipped my head. I've read 1 chapter in this book, but it's big and it's ambitious. So I need to read not only that chapter again, but the whole of the book again. This is by Noel Malcolm, who is he gained his doctorate at Cambridge University, where he was a fellow at Gonville and Caius College for 7 years. He was then a political columnist and subsequently foreign editor of The Spectator, and he's gone on since then to become a historian, and this is his latest book, Useful Enemies, which does have a faded cover, but it's actually kind of attractive. It's a sketch, and it is called Islam and the Ottoman Empire in Western Political Thought, 1450 to 1750. And the chapter that I read was superb. There's a chapter in here on Machiavelli, devoted entirely to Machiavelli, and it was superb. It gets my hopes up a lot for the rest of the book. Let me tell you a little bit about it. From the fall of Constantinople in 1453 until the 18th century, many Western European writers viewed the Ottoman Empire with almost obsessive interest. Typically, they reacted to it with fear and distrust, and such feelings were reinforced by the deep hostility of Western Christendom towards Islam. Yet there was also much curiosity about the social and political system on which the huge power of the sultans was based. In the 16th century especially, when Ottoman territorial expansion was rapid and Ottoman institutions seemed particularly robust, there was even open admiration. In this groundbreaking new book, Noel Malcolm ranges through these vital centuries of East-West interactions, studying all the ways in which thinkers in the West interpreted the Ottoman Empire as a political phenomenon and Islam as a political religion. I like that description. I think so I can't wait, of course. I dipped in, I read just 1 chapter, but I'm very much interested in reading the whole thing. This comes out in early September, and I'm hoping that I can review it. And I'm hoping that if I can review it mostly for an Islamic audience. That would be kind of the point. so we shall see. I'm looking forward to it. And then the last one is fantasy. It has a cover blurb by Hilary Mantel. Didn't know she was a reader of fantasy, and it intrigues, very much intrigues. It's by Andrew Caldecott, and it's illustrated by Sasha Laika. It's an illustrated book, and it's called Rather Weird. And it's the story of a kind of a Brigadoon take. Let me give you an idea here. This is the cover, and there are, let's see here, the year is 1558. 12 children, gifted far beyond their years, are banished by their tutor queen to the town of Rotherweird. Some say they are the golden generation, some say the devil's spawn, but everyone knows they are something to be revered and feared. 4.5 centuries on, cast adrift from the rest of England by Elizabeth I and still bound by its ancient laws, Rotherweird's independence is subject to one disturbing condition. Nobody, and that means nobody, is allowed to study the history of the town. Then an outsider arrives, a man of unparalleled wealth and power, enough to buy the whole of Rotherweird, and including all of its deeply buried secrets. So this is a town cast adrift from common memory, because no one is allowed to study its history. You can come there and teach the history of Rotherweird, but only for the last 100 years. You can't You can't delve back into the past, and certainly not into the origin of what caused it to be cast adrift from the rest of mankind. And that sounds fascinating to me. Did I mention when this comes out? This, I think, is fairly soon. I don't know if this already had its UK appearance. It strikes me that it might have. Yeah, this comes out at the end of July here in America. I'll have to check and see if it's out already in England. But that is a Monday Reads for you. We've got a little bit of fantasy with Rather Weird. We've got Useful Enemies, East and West, how the West for centuries viewed the Ottoman Empire. We've got, let's see here, how are we going to do this? Oh, right, A Month of Sundays by a recently deceased pastor. We have The Chain by Adrian McKinty, just balls to the wall thriller. You have to be in the mood for that, but if you are, it won't let you down. And I also, to take the chance to recommend this author, just in general. Wicked Fox, a YA supernatural romance that I just loved. And finally, The Song of Q, new in a Penguin Classic, a translation by Timothy Allen that I thought was superb. So that is a little bit of a Monday Reads for you. so sorry, it's all over the map in terms of subject matter, but you know that. You know to expect that. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.